This is your online one-on-one lesson with me. So I know you're a very busy man, so this is one of the best ways that I figured out how to deliver your daily dose of guitar. So you told me in our lessons together that you wanted to learn how to feel comfortable in a jam session, how to just have fun, how to be able to create. And the truth is, you really don't need to know all that much to make beautiful music with this instrument. So I'll teach you 3 patterns. I'll teach you how to use those patterns. I'll teach you how to play the patterns, and I'll teach you how to practice the patterns. Now, it all sounds very similar, but I promise you it's not. Sometimes it's not really about just the notes you play, but how you play those notes. So I'm going to teach you the first pattern right now. It's on your handout, but this is so that you can see with your own eyes what I'm doing. Okay, first we're going to cover pattern 1. It's the strongest of the pentatonic. It's also the easiest to learn. And what we're going to do is we're going to put our pointer finger, our index finger, on the 6th string on the 5th fret. And that's going to be our first note. And from there, we're going to use our pinky on the 8th fret on that same string. So you can tell there's going to be 2 notes per string. And we'll keep going. Next is going to be 5-7. 4th string, we're going to do 5-7 with your index finger and your ring finger. We're going to do the same thing on the 3rd string. Okay, the next part, we're going to use fingers, the index finger and the pinky. 2nd string, we're going to go 5-8. And then we're going to do 5-8. Okay, now practice going on the way back down. It's going to be the exact opposite. It's going to be 8-5, 8-5, 7-5, 7-5, 7-5, and 8-5. Okay, so there we have it. The first pattern. Okay, so that was the first pattern. Let me show you the second pattern. It's a good idea to think about this pattern kind of like an extension to this first pattern. So you'll see a lot of notes in common, but I'll show you how to finger it. So right here on the 5th fret, instead of having your index finger there, we're going to use our pinky. Okay, and this is going to be the position. It's going to be 3 with your middle finger on the 6th string, then your pinky, 5, 3, 5, 2, 5, 2, 5, 3, 5, 3, 5. Okay, we're going to go back down again. Okay, that was pattern 2. Now let's go to the next pattern. And we're going to do pattern 3. This one is a higher extension of that scale. So we're going to use our middle finger now. We're going to put it on the 8th fret. Okay. So that was 8, 10. Now we're going to keep going. We're going to go 7, 10, 7, 10, 7, 9, 8, 10, 8, 10. Again. So these are 3 patterns. So you can choose either of them, any of the 3. They all sound great. But what I recommend is start with the first one. And then once you see, you'll be able to connect these patterns together because you'll see notes in common. So you don't always have to play pattern 3, or you don't always have to play pattern 1. You can do a combination of those 2. So that's a way that we can start incorporating all these. All right, and finally, well, there's still a lot to cover, but here is a good idea to keep in mind when you're making music with these scales. And it's the idea of adding pauses on specific notes. And the note that I'm referring to is the tonic. It's considered home base. So whenever you land on this one note, it sounds like the idea is complete. It sounds like you are done. So let me demonstrate. On the sheet that I gave you, you'll see that the accented notes are the tonic notes. So if you land on any of those notes, you'll see that it'll sound like it resolves, or it sounds like it finishes the idea. So I'll show you. On the first pattern, pattern 1, you'll notice that you have 3 places where you can actually stop. It's going to be the 6th string on the 5th fret, 4th string 7th fret, and 1st string 5th fret. So those are the tonic and the A minor pentatonic scale, and I'm going to demonstrate what it sounds like when it finishes, or you land on any of these notes. So I made a few pauses right there, and it has the sense of completion. And whenever you're balancing out ideas in a jam session, you want to have those pauses. That keeps the listener listening. Because if all you're doing is playing the scale up and down, if all you're doing is playing the scale up and down, you're going to lose the listener. Their mind is going to go somewhere else. So it's always good to add those pauses to keep it interesting. Okay, so that's the idea of landing on a tonic or landing on the home note. So after you land on the home note and you begin to come up with all these creative, amazing ideas, and you find out, oh, you know what, maybe there's something more that you can do. It's not necessarily just about playing the notes, it's how you play the notes. So I'm going to demonstrate 4 techniques, and it's wonderful. I included examples of licks that use all these techniques. And let's start with just the simpler ones. Let's start with slides, because it's a really fun one that all beginners love doing on their guitar when they first find out about it. Okay, so from this scale, you don't necessarily just have to play just one note at a time. You can play 2 notes at a time, and these things are called double stops. So instead of just holding down 5 and then 5, you can hold both the 1st and the 2nd string off of the 5th fret. What more is you can actually slide from one fret below and resolve upwards like that. You can do it on all 6 strings, all couples like that. All right, something else that you can also do, you don't necessarily have to just do doubles either. You can slide one note and then return right back to the home note. So check it out. I'm literally going to go down the scale, sliding down, up and then down. So that's an example of sliding. So you can slide in between all these different patterns. You can slide just to get into position for that same pattern that you're doing. Yeah, the possibilities are endless. So now let's cover hammer-ons and pull-offs. So hammer-ons and pull-offs, it's actually kind of cool. It's kind of tricky at the beginning, but once you understand what's going on, then it's really, really cool. Let me just show you. So we have our first finger, and we're going to play just 2 notes on one string to start. So we got 5 and then 8. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play 5, and then immediately with the very tip of my finger, I'm going to slam it down close to the fret, because now you are hammering on the note. So do it on all the strings. Okay, and now the reverse is true. What we're going to do is we are fretting this note and you're holding that note. So what you can do is you can play the highest note and then flick off the note to the other one that you're fretting. So I just did it. Let me do it a little bit slower. So what I'm doing is pull off, pull off, pull off, pull off, pull off, pull off. So practice doing the hammer-ons and the pull-offs individually, and then when you're feeling really adventurous, you can start combining the 2 of them and put together, it's called a trill. It's a beautiful way to get some extra mileage out of your picking. So in one of the spicy licks that I wrote down for you, there is one in particular that uses the hammer-on and the pull-off, and then it goes down to the next string and does the same thing. So do it a bit slower at first, but it's definitely worth the time and the effort. Okay, let's go ahead and now cover bending. Bending is one of those awesome techniques that really adds a lot of emotion. It's one of the few tricks that you can do on guitar that you cannot do on pretty much any other instrument. So what we're going to do is we're going to still play the scale, but we're going to focus mainly on the frets that are 8 and 7. 5 you can still bend, but it's a different kind of bending. So what I'll show you is a more of an electric guitar style bend. So let's go ahead and let's just start with this one note here. It's going to be the 7th fret on the 3rd string. And what I'm doing is I'm holding this note down while I'm putting these 2 fingers down on the same string for extra support. And as I play that note, I'm not just using my fingers to push up, but I'm actually turning the wrist to add some extra control and strength. So yeah, use those extra fingers and bend the wrist like you're turning a doorknob. Okay. Now, there is one thing that I definitely want to teach you, and we probably have covered it in other lessons, and that is how to actually really build speed on both hands. I struggled with this for a really long time, but I found out that lack of speed is really due to the hands not really being synchronized. If you think about it, like if you get really jittery, your hand's already moving fast. It's really about harnessing that energy and syncing it with both hands so that you have it available to you. So I'm going to show you. I call it separate together. So what you want to do is, instead of focusing on both hands at the same time, focus on one hand at a time. It'll be a really good way to learn all the patterns and then work on your picking and then put it together. And then before you know it, you'll feel more comfortable, you'll feel more confident, and you'll be amazed by how much faster you get by just taking the extra time to do the step. So left hand only, really focus on the tips. And focus on staying really low to the fretboard. Don't worry about anything else. Just worry about getting the pattern. Whichever pattern you choose. You know, it could be pattern 1, could be pattern 2, it could be pattern 3. But just make sure that you really take the time to internalize it. The last thing that you want to be doing is thinking about, oh, am I hitting the right notes on this pattern? You just want to have the pattern at the tip of your fingers and have fun with it. You don't want to think too hard. Let it be a part of you. Okay, and you will also see that in the handout, I included some speed builders. So when you're first starting to play the scale, what's going to happen more than likely is you're going to start with your pick. You're going to do all down picking, all down strums. And that's cool, but it will slow you down at the end. Instead, you'll want to do the separate together method with the right hand as well. So for example, you'll notice that on the finished product, you're actually doing alternate picking like that. But what if you're not ready for that? Right hand only. So you're going to do down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. And we're actually getting to that point at the very end of the scale. You'll notice that your picking is going to change. Don't worry about it. Don't think about it too much. That's the most important part. Don't think about it too much. Instead, have the hand naturally go where it wants to go. Do down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, and just steer the pick to the right string. So that's for single notes. But if you really want to start building your chops and get even faster, a good way to really get your hands moving and get them synchronized is to do each note twice. It's called double picking. So I'll take that same scale and I'll play each note twice. So I'll go down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. So this way, you can be sure that each note that you're going to play, you're going to play it exactly the same way. And if you're not really used to moving your hands, this will really get you up to speed. It also just sounds really cool when you're doing it on a track. Okay, so remember, separate together is what builds your speed and gets you really comfortable. Finally, you want to integrate all this into your playing. It's not enough to just learn a scale. It's not enough to know all this knowledge, but never apply it. Otherwise, it's useless. So what I'm going to do in this next video, I'm going to show you an example of adding all of this together. Okay. So for your homework, I recommend that you look at your assignment sheet and really just go through it. Take your time. There's a lot of material on that handout. But more importantly than any of those things, once you're getting into the groove of playing your guitar, make sure to record yourself and send a video demonstrating what you have learned. That way I can give you feedback, because I know that we haven't been able to meet in person. So I just want to make sure that you're doing everything correctly, and if there's anything that I can do to help you, I'll be there. So yeah, for any questions, go ahead and send me an email, send me a text, and I'll get right back to you. All right, let's go ahead and do this track.